슈퍼 SK 서머
Welcome back to
스플릿 2주차로 찾아왔습니다.
LCK Summer Split Round 2 week number 9. On our previous show, we'll be joined by our beautiful LCK host Minaki and Victor Joksal Suhan, our analyst, and this is season with the English translation for the global fans.
앞이 보이지 않습니다.
그렇습니다. 진짜 얼마 경기가 남지 않았음에도
There
불구하고
aren't many matches left now. However, the competition for the playoffs is still so fierce, so we cannot really predict what's going to end up by the end of the regular split. To add on, actually, not about the playoff, we also have to think of the relegations. There are 3 possible teams, or maybe 2 possible teams still not knowing whether they're going down to the relegation, so we'll have to wait until the end of this week whether KT or Hanwha will go down to the relegations. And speaking of the foreign leagues, in LCS, the regular split has finished, so Team Liquid is on the first place, and LEC G2 is still on the first place. Very dominant all over the EU region, and also in LPL, Fun plus Phoenix there are on the first place as well, dropping only 1 game. So let's take a look at the issues of last week with the highlight clips. LCK is having the most competitive split so far. There are 4 teams on a 10 win and 5 losses tie: SKT, Sandbox, Damwon, and Genji. However, SKT seems to have the biggest momentum since they are on an insane winning streak. After losing 5 series in the beginning of the split, they haven't lost any games yet now. And let's move on to the relegations. Well, it's gonna be Hana versus KT Roster. The interesting thing is that both teams are actually building up. Their performers are getting better. Well, in the previous promotions, KT Roster and Jin Air was down there. However, KT Roster, now they don't really want to make it back to their relegations, so their performance have kind of enhanced a lot. However, Hana, their players are also having a very high spirits right now, really wanting the victories, so we cannot really predict whether KT Roster or Hana Life Esports will make it down to their relegations. And another team, actually Jin Air, they already made it down to the relegation. However, they finally managed to win a game. Well, they haven't made the transition to a match win, but well, this can be a very good sign for them. Maybe this week they can finally pick up a win, a series win, and they can kind of end up their losing streak in terms of matches as well. Well, Jin Air is having a game up against Kingston today, so we'll have to wait and see. And the last issue is Fly's champion pool. Fly is always locking in some unorthodox mid champions, and last week it was FLICKR and Echo. His FLICKR is still undefeated so far, and very unexpected pick, Echo popped out from his pocket. Fly mentioned that he has been practicing Echo up against as a counter pick for Azir, and it really worked out awesome. So, Genji has bigger potential since they have a very huge champion pool. So this is the standings right now, and SK Telecom finally made it to the first place. So SKT started at the very bottom. They were on the 9th place with 1 victory and 5 losses, but they are now on the top of the ladder. But besides Jin Air, nothing has been actually decided yet. And some of the sad news is that Damwon, Kingston, they were the 2 strongest team in the summer split, especially in the first round, and Kingston was doing such a great work in the Rift Rivals, but their performance has been going down after Rift Rivals, and also Damwon, their performance is a lot weaker compared to previous weeks, so they have to find out what their problems are. So we have the predictions of LCK casters and analysts for the regular split top 3 teams. So everyone voted for SKT
그쵸. 사실
for the
누구도
first
이거를
place.
예상을 못했을 거예요. 오히려 서머 시작하기 전으로
Well,
돌아가도
if
이렇게
it
예상을
was
할수 있을지
before the summer
모르겠지만
split or in the
서머
middle
중간에
of the
보여줬던
summer
SKT
split,
연패
no one
과정에서
actually
그걸
would have
결국 다
made this
이겨내고
prediction.
연습
However,
아까 조사에서 말한
based
것처럼
on
약점이 없는
SKT, their
느낌을 보여준다는
improved
게
performance
가장 큰
now, they
장점인
are
것
the most solid team in LCK.
SKT고 다른 부분을 보자면 이제
So moving on to the second place, it's actually there
there
are 3 votes for Griffin or more. So actually there are 7 votes for Griffin to be end up in second place. So which also proves that Griffin, their performance is looking really good. Even though they have been a little shaky, they are now kind of going back to their usual form. So we cannot really expect what can end up in the end of the split, but some of the predictions are really mutual. And this week's LCK, we are playing in the new patch 9.15.
사실 기존의 9.14에 비하면 굉장히
So
마이너한
there are
패치라고 보셔도
some
될 것 같아서
good news
일부
for
챔피언들은
Lysandra,
좀
Lucian,
있습니다.
LeBlanc,
리산드라, 르블랑 같은 경우에
Seras,
약간의
and
상향이
Lee
주어졌지만 원래도
but compared to
상황에 따라 쓸 수
9.14,
있는
those are
카드들이었던
kind of a
만큼
minor
선수들한테
patch,
좀더
but
자신감 있게
this can
기용해볼
actually
만한
add some
근거를
change
제공하는
to the
좋은 상황인
draft.
것 같아요.
그리고 루시안, 제라스, 리신도 상향이 되는데요.
So speaking of Lucian and Listen, they are already frequently used champions in the current meta. However, well, since some of the aggressive junglers are not really mainstream in the current meta, maybe Listen can be back in the Rift.
그리고 카르마가 키아나가 하향이 되는데
And Karma, Kiana are getting nerfed.
SK에서는 아무래도 좀 적극적으로 활용되지는 않아서 의아할 수 있지만
Well,
전 세계적으로
unexpected
많이
thing is
활용되다
that
보니까
Kiana
약간의
has
하향과
been
더불어서
has
이제
not been
공격기에
performing so
후반
well in
활용을 좀더
competitive
어플을 했다고
games,
보시면
and
될것
especially in
같고요.
LCK.
반면 카르마 같은
She's
경우는
on the
분명히
0-3
월요일에
record,
먼저
but
득점으로
she's
진행했던
getting
세미나스
nerfed on
코리아에서도
both E
바로
skill
나와서
and
좋은
R
모습
skill, the
보여줬어요.
ultimate.
거기다가 최근에 바텀 카르마
And as
한
Karma,
필자가 사용하는 게
Karma
많았던
is a
것
4-way
같아요.
flex pick right now, so it's really strong.
strong.
So a lot of people have been actually suffering whether to ban it or just open it. So now they have nerfed the upgrade E skill, so maybe their ability in the team fight has been a little bit weakened. And Mordekaiser will be back on the Rift now. The ban has been lifted. However, in LCK, Mordekaiser is not really frequently picked, and also in LEC, it's not really preferred, and also in LCS, no one has picked it yet. So these are the prediction from the analysts of LCK, whether what the top 3 picks in LCK for this week will be. So Suhan, a specialist in foreign leagues, he's saying that the teams who took Aatrox and Akali are having high win rates, so he thinks that those two are the top 2 champions. And Bitor mentioning about Lee Sin. Even though that buff is not that big, however, this is kind of giving the players the reason to pick Lee Sin, so maybe increased pick rate might end up in increased win rates.
아마 모습을 많이 보여줄 것 같은데 그 중심에 또 라이즈가 있지 않을까 이렇게 예상을 해봤습니다.
네, 어떤 카드들이 등장할지 벌써부터 떨립니다.
I'm looking forward to what kind of new champions will be hopping on the Rift, and let's check out the upcoming schedules.
자, 오늘 킹존과 담원이 각각
So for
경기를
today,
펼치게
Kingzone
되는데
and Damwon, they are having
중요하겠죠.
matches. So for the playoff round, they really need to get the win. So for Jin Air, they really need to get a win for this split. However, based on their improved performance, today might be the day for them to get the win. And tomorrow, Africa versus Sandbox is gonna be a very volatile game, fighting so fiercely for their playoff ticket. And the game number 2 for tomorrow, Genji versus Griffin. Actually, Genji has been performing so well up against Griffin, so if they take him down, Genji is gonna have a great momentum, and at the same time, Griffin will might be having another slump, losing up against Genji.
네, 이렇게 해서 이번 주 일정까지
So this
모두
will wrap up this
만나봤습니다.
week's
오늘
preview
첫
show,
경기
and I'm gonna
진행한
pass it back to our
킹존이
casters.
기다리겠습니다.
Thank
지금부터
you.
만나보시죠.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK 2019 Summer. I'm Atlas, and I'm super happy to welcome back Papa Smithy. I hope your European journey was a fun one, but I hope you never do it again.
I'm happy to be back, Atlas. It seems like you held down the fort with LS and Valdez just fine. I went on my spiritual journey. I dusted off that British passport I have to supplement my Australian nationality. Went out there, did a little bit of soul searching, tried to learn from G2, learned that Garrett, not the greatest pick to go towards, but it was a fun journey. Still, this is my chair. I'm all about the Korean League of Legends. It's delightful to be back in LoL Park.
Yeah, and all things went a little bit crazy last week as well. I know you weren't necessarily paying as much attention as you otherwise would because you weren't able to be on the broadcast, but Damwon Gaming, who we thought were a good team, they went 0-2. We had Jin Air winning a game against Gen G. All sorts of crazy things.
I've got a butt for you. I went over to Europe, and the Korean players stepped up in performance. Mickey was getting solo kills.
Damn right he was.
People looking better. Damwon were good while I was here, and then not so good when I left.
Oh, okay.
So, Papa's back, and maybe, just maybe, Damwon Gaming will be as well. By the way, guys, if you watched the preview show that we had our predictions for regular season ending, of course, it wasn't in English. Everyone could tell LS was on the end. Myself and Valdez were second column. We've got SKT 1, Griffin 2, Sandbox 3. You're in the third column there. The big takeaway for me is Griffin's strength of schedule. They have a very easy close to the season after a couple of tricky games. This week, though, we begin patch 915 cycle. We're at 75 matches, guys. 15 best of 3s to go. We end on 90 next Sunday. Jin Air Greenwings versus Kingzone. This is one where
a really
Jin Air
weird match.
Probably has to circle today. They play KT Lay this week, also potentially for their first win. Given all of Kingzone's off-the-field issues, and a lot of people will see the translated stories on Reddit that have been denied by the Kingzone org, all we can tell is, with that much uproar, who's to say how Kingzone will look today, and their recent form hasn't been fantastic either.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that Jin Air certainly might have an opportunity to get some upsets going on, but we'll see whether Kingzone can get themselves back on track. Some riding of the ship is definitely necessary. So we have a look at some of the stats here. Gold lead at 25, win rates are pretty good here for Kingzone Dragon X, but the thing is, with this season already being so mature and Kingzone slump, a lot of these stats are largely irrelevant when it comes to Kingzone Dragon X. Really, we should be looking at the last couple of weeks because, as you alluded to, Papa Smithy, the slump is certainly there, and it seems to be some off-rift issues that are causing some of those problems.
But some on-rift issues as well. Obviously, we can't assign blame. We don't want to speculate on the Kingzone situation because the org has come out and been clear that they don't agree with what's being reported, so who's to say what's happening there in particular? All we can look at is 2-1 loss to Genji, 2-1 loss to Afrika, loss to SKT 2-0, loss to Sandbox 2-0. All of these teams are around it when it comes to the top of the table. Now they're facing Jin Air. If Kingzone are going to even be within a stone's throw of playoffs, because they're in 7th. What a fall from the team that was the darling of Korea at Rift Rivals. Since the 18th of July, they have not won a single match. It's been a long losing streak for Kingzone.
Yep, we are going to check out some of these highlights though, and finally we have a game win to show you for Jin Air Greenwings. An E-steal on the Dragon was certainly not exactly the most impactful moment, but was a fun one. As Jin Air Greenwings certainly showing that in game number 1 against Gen G, they were able to play. Unfortunately for them, unable to win any of the matches after that one, and Gen G were able to take the series 2-1, but for a team that has certainly been looking up, and if you saw my predictions, I had Gen G coming in at 2nd based on their schedule and their experience against the players they're going up against. But this was certainly a big one for this Jin Air roster.
And you need to understand, again, because they're regular season predictions, it's a lot more about strength of schedule in my eyes than who's the best. I do not think Griffin is the 2nd best team in Korea right now, but the schedule could be helping them there. Here is Kingzone, who, again, picking up no game victories in the last two game victories in their 2-1 losses previously. They've had some isolated moments where things have come together, but it just isn't the Kingzone we remember from when they've been looking good, and their top side hasn't been able to put on the same performance in the 2nd round robin they were honestly lighting the Rift up with in the 1st round robin.
They were, but this was a really depressing game, actually. If you're a Kingzone fan, this game number 1, Kingzone had control throughout the majority. They also had a fantastic draft, and if executed in the later stages of the game, it would have been very impactful, but unfortunately, a few blunders throughout the mid to late game, and then things went all awry for Kingzone Dragon X, and then it felt like it was emotions that played the biggest part in game number 2. So they really need to take control of their heads, do Kingzone. And I think Deft is going to be a large proponent of that one. Certainly one of our most experienced players in the LCK, and definitely the most experienced on this particular roster, and his stats still telling a pretty good story, despite the fact that Root has some pretty decent ones of his own.
In summer season, one winning lane isn't enough to win matches. There were times Deft could do it, Ruler could do it in spring, but we're not in that sort of a meta anymore. So even though Deft's performance has been largely fine, has had some good moments, really needs to be an entire team performance, and Root obviously is someone who knows that fact very well.
The Jin Air effect is a very strong one, and Root has been suffering the same way that Teddy did in years gone by, now in greener pastures over on SKT.
Still, this is an important match. Normally Kingzone versus Jin Air wouldn't represent too much, but with Kingzone in freefall and Jin Air hungry to get that first victory. No team has ever gone winless. A double round robin best of 3 scenario. Jin Air knows they've only got a couple more times to strike. I believe it's Griffin next week. So this week, Kingzone out of form and KT Rolster, there'll never be a better time for a victory than this week for Jin Air.
Yep, that is exactly right. See whether they can get one on the board, because they might be able to use momentum from a win here to be able to take down KT Rolster as well. But we'll have to find out in our next series. Of course, the debut, 9-15 for KT Rolster, will be an interesting one with BDD there in the mid lane with a lot of new toys to play with on this particular patch. So welcome Jin Air Greenwings and now Kingzone Dragon X to make their debut into LoL Park for week number 9. I can't believe we're already at the second last week.
We're already there, and it's a really, really hard time to talk about Kingzone. No wins in recent memory, and everyone is going to be staring into souls and eyes and trying to read into all of the talk around. We don't have any conclusive answers. Maybe we never will. Maybe the off-season we'll need to come for those. It's definitely going to be a day for hot takes and overreactions, and all Kingzone fans will want to see is a 2-0 victory over Jin Air and some confidence and swagger back into a team that was honestly a delight and a treat to watch as recently as Rift Rivals.
Yeah, it was not like 3 weeks ago, something like that, and Kingzone Dragon X were challenging the top spots of the tables, and it felt like, you know, a couple of days went by and all of a sudden it was a spontaneous combustion of the team. See whether they have been able to repair themselves. This is going to be your roster, of course, unchanging throughout the summer season. No subs even on this one. See what changes are going to come towards the end, but right now this is all they have to work with. Hirai behind them. We'll see whether he can navigate through a draft in a better way than as has been demonstrated in their more recent games, but
forgot it's the battle of the two handsome coaches as well.
I was going to say this. Coach Han and Hirai, both of them.
He stole my jacket again.
I really like the collarless shirt as well with that particular color. Just fantastic stuff from Coach Han there. Deft on your screen, he looks angry.
Sleepy, somber, angry. Hard to tell when it's a sentient alpaca.
You need to be able to translate the looks of Deft, and there are a lot of very subtle differences. That was there was certainly some animosity there.
I hope the draft isn't subtle. Give me some jinx. Give me some swagger.
Yeah, man.
It's a weird spot against Jin Air because no one wants to flex against a team that's been hapless at the bottom, but Kingzone need to show they've got the tonic to arrest this slide. You can't lose 4 matches and make it more than that. You can't lose to Jin Air and make playoffs. If Kingzone aren't 2-0ing, they're already against it. They need to overcome their slide if they're even to qualify for playoffs. And there was a time in week 2 and 3 when they seemed like the best team in Korea by a margin.
They did. And in spring as well, I mean, before they came up against an SKT that looked absolutely dominant.
That win streak, right?
In the final, exactly right. I mean, they were able to destroy Damwon Gaming in that particular playoff run, but that was a long time ago, and now we're in the champion select for game number 1. Jin Air Greenwings on our blue side to start things off, and yeah, Deft doesn't get to play Ezreal anymore.
We'll see where the priorities are. First competitive series in a major region on patch 9.15. Pretty small patch, all things considered.
Yeah.
If anything, bigger than the notes is that your boy Mordekaiser is available to be picked. Now, he probably won't be. He was nerfed on 9.14, but he has been on the sidelines for, I feel like, 4 out of the last 5 competitive weeks. He's been disabled for one bug or another, such as Mordekaiser.
Yep, it's just the way that it all plays out, and If LS has anything to say about it, it is no one's ever going to pick that champion because he's garbage, but I have a feeling there's a bit of emotion there because LS and I are both pretty devout Mordekaiser players, and he gets a bit sad when his boy gets nerfed.
916 changes have been kind of publicized and discussed. There will be nerfs to Ezreal, who I think is really strong here in everyone's hands, but like you already mentioned, Deft is going to be right up there, so that's one that's going to be a future one. Azir and Corki untouched in this patch and both available through the first round of bans. We'll see what the priorities are for the side of Jin Air.
I think Corki is certainly standing out at the moment.
Your eyes are more trained to last week's Korean meta.
Oh, not going to be the case.
This seems like a surprise, right? Varus first pick over and above something like Corki and Azir.
Has been the fallback for Deft if he's not able to play his Ezreal, but there are a lot of other things that are still left up, and I think the Xayah is going to be a big one, and Xayah Corki has been a sort of timeless DPS duo throughout many metas.
Let's talk about why first pick Varus. You already talked about how it's a fallback for Root. Also consider Root is the main win condition for Jin Air, and he's against the best laning duo we have, especially on paper in Deft and TusiN.
Yeah.
So he's saying, you can't just pick the champion that slams lane, go Varus Braum or Varus Tom on red, and leave me with nothing. I need to have priority in this game. I'll choose Varus and try to counterpick support potentially, and just make sure that bot lane isn't void just from pick and ban.
Well, we'll see whether they can get past the Xayah Rakan that is being threatened here by King's Own Dragon X. As I was just talking about, the Corki Xayah combo are going to be locked in. But the Varus Tahm Kench seems to be something we can't remove from the LCK.
If you wanted to double down on the plan that started with first pick Varus, I actually would have preferred something like Morgana here, just to be a really big blocker to the Rakan, and just in general, really strong double range, but it still does what it says on the tin, right? Yes, those champions have been nerfed, but Varus Tahm Kench is still Varus Tahm Kench. The Mordekaiser hover to confirm that he's available.
Yep.
The first round, Lovers bot lane, definitely a duo that will have to be respected, especially at level 1, which is where so many Tahm Kench lanes have messed up and lost a flash to the Xayah Rakan.
And also, this is Deft and TusiN, that are no strangers to playing extraordinarily aggressively very early on in the laning phase. And we have to remember that TusiN almost managed to get a season MVP when Rakan was at the top of the meta because he was so damn good at this champion. So this is certainly a big one for King's Own, and with a draft like this, it's already looking very flexible and also very strong just by these first three.
That's the fun thing, is that this draft can do a bit of everything. It doesn't have to pigeonhole itself in one direction or the other. On the red side, you now have a lane domination duo and then an Aatrox to do his general thing. So, solo laners, flexible Corki pick, potentially top, but hasn't been picked in the LCK, I believe, so far.
Yep.
And potentially counter picks coming out. We'll see where King's Own wants to put that counter pick, because no junglers selected in the first round means the ban hammer comes down. We might be getting to some extra innings here, because Jarvan, Skarner, Gragas, Karthus, Sejuani, that's a lot of junglers.
Yeah, 5 already.
Rek'Sai priority starts to go up here just because generally strong, especially when the pool is thinned, and I wonder if anyone gets to that thing that never seems to work in Korea, starts to think, Olaf, which...
Yeah. I mean, Xin Zhao is still available, and, you know, Lee Sin was buffed in 9.15 as the Rek'Sai is going to be taken away from Cuzz, always been his fallback, but Elise has been very high priority here in Korea, and it allows you to create these top lane situations that Jin Air are going to be really worried of, because they're threatening a Renekton pick right now, and that could just mean that Lindarang doesn't get to play League of Legends.
I mean, Elise is kind of the refined man's Olaf, because the playstyle is pretty similar, but you have the crowd control.
Yeah.
And the turret reset, rather than kind of the invulnerability that Olaf provides. Doesn't skirmish as well in the early game. The Azir was left open, so sadly, that is very likely to be locked in here.
Oh god, Azir
But
Corki, welcome back.
the Elise will fall off if not piloted, and King's Own's early game has flattered to deceive in recent times. Here is the Olaf, so gonna opt into the matchup is Malrang, and just like LS always talks about, he's a gambler, and if you show up in the right spot as Olaf, your chase potential is endless.
Yeah. And now they do have a lot of mid-game power in this roster as well, with some fallback in the late game with Azir, and Varus having a lot of DPS potential if he can get in the right positions. And with the Tahm Kench, he certainly will be able to. Team fights going to be a big deal here for Jin Air, but you can see Rascal, he's going to take away the Camille. In theory, a flex pick between mid and top lane, but we haven't seen the Corky top so far in the LCK, so likely that this is going to be exactly what we're going to see out of Kingzone, and it's a pretty clean draft.
I actually really like this game, and like you were alluding to, the identities between the two teams here are different. Jin Air is, like you mentioned, a lot of team fight. Their initiation isn't super clean, but they have multiple people that can try it, and also maybe Olaf just decides the tempo of the game if you get far enough ahead. But you look at Kingzone, and there's so much about skirmishes, 2v2, 3v3, turret dives. They're so strong there, but in a true team fight, you're baited into thinking 2 IE carries, Corky and Xayah, it'll work out, but they're so brittle, Atlas. They don't control AoE space like the champions on Jin Air can, that there's a real chance that if Kingzone are a little bit sleepy to open up here, need to play themselves into form, there's no guarantee that even with the hot knife through butter double IE 80 carries, there's no guarantee they can shape up in a 5v5.
But there is certainly snowball potential with the Kingzone competition.
Sides.
Yeah, if Kingzone, though, if they get this Elise rolling around this map, they have so much follow-up CC from top and bottom lane,
but
that it could be really difficult.
Get in, unload, get out. They can't stick around, otherwise Aatrox gets going, the AoE gets going, and Kingzone could struggle.
Well, we'll see whether Jin Air can find their next victory here and start off this week with a bang as we get into game number 1. Kingzone fans a little bit sleepy to begin this one. See whether they're going to wake up alongside their team as this game goes on.
I'm sure the fans, especially the hardcore fans, they're always out here in Lowell Park, have complicated emotions today.
Yeah.
Once again, with all the rumor and innuendo. A lot of posts on Reddit, in case you guys aren't sure. We're not going to comment, because the information is conflicting from multiple parties, but the information's out there. The fans like us are watching on, hoping to see their team level up, and this is the fixture Kingzone needed, probably at the time they needed it, because if you didn't have a winnable match today, and you're on a 5-match losing streak, kind of waving goodbye to playoffs already, and it's going to be playoffs, playoffs, playoffs. Almost every game we will be spamming out that word because it's the last 2 weeks, Atlas.
Yeah.
There's 8 match days left, and then it's all over.
And it also feels like we have 2 sets of playoffs as well, with the Worlds Gauntlet to come up immediately afterwards to decide our third team heading to Worlds. That is certainly greatly into the future as Jin Air. Yeah, late invade. We haven't seen a late invade for a long time, as they're not going to be spotted.
Cuzz has no idea. This could be bad.
Yeah, he's by himself as well. There's the blast going. Surprise! 3 people. Cuzz finds the flash, but the flash from Malrang will guarantee first blood in Jin Air. This was a practice strategy and a beautiful one alongside this Olaf jungle.
And you love how it was set up, and maybe it should have been intuited because you saw the ward be snuck in earlier, right? They knew that there was a deep ward on the red buff. No one starting on red, a lot of people missing. But they come in, surprise them, and because Kingzone had been assertive and put down a ward, there was always the chance this could be the response, and the response was damn effective.
Yeah, some extra experience for the bottom lane as well. Root and Nova do already have a relatively strong lane in the laning phase, so it's just only good things here for Jin Air, as Cuzz is going to have to try and salvage his jungle. He was already going to be starting by himself, so not exactly a change as far as leashes are concerned, but being behind like this is just so bad for a jungler that wants to be getting so much work done in the early game.
And it's very easy to be results-orientated about those moments where 3 people blast plant in and the jungler dies. Like, why would he be there? You know, these sort of comments where you have full information and you just are too results-orientated. This is a really tricky one because there was the level 1 show of the deep ward, because it's a duo lane that wants to get to lane first because they don't want to screw up at level 1 like Varus Tam often does. All we can say is that there was that information earlier. At this point, what happens here, where Cuzz flashes, like, he will die. But if you think about it, trading flashes with Olaf, who wants to invade, is actually not a bad decision, because if your lane gets there first, you can actually kill the Olaf because he doesn't have the ability to throw an axe and then flash away.
Yeah. So at least he's able to get that. So we found a way to half fill our glass, but
you're happy that's the trade of flash you got. If you got someone else, maybe it's hard to take advantage of, but it does relieve a little bit of pressure.
Well, that Infernal Chain did eventually work, as Deft and TusiN trading very nicely here with Nova and Root. Nova able to use that passive to eat up some of that Grey health, but the Varus going to have to pop the potion pretty soon, and does do so right there. But is 6 CS in the lead as the waves are going to crash once again?
So catch me up, Atlas. I was able to kind of check in when I could and watch through highlights and feel like I have a pretty good idea of last week. For someone who followed on every single moment, and I imagine there's fans out there that weren't able to, are there any things I would have missed about where the meta is going or where the teams are going last week while I was on my sojourn?
Well, I mean, you were over there. You were witnessing Fnatic playing the Tahm Kench Karma. That was busted out here as well.
Right?
Yeah, and it was a victory for the Tahm Kench Karma, so you can make of that what you will.
Karma Chameleon might be back even after the nerfs.
It was a worrying time, as we weren't quite expecting.
Will
that
it
one
grow to
a
be a
victory.
worrying trend?
It may.
I'll tweet
I mean,
I'll tweet
Jat's
it,
back.
Jat.
He's
Maybe
back,
you can let us
so
know.
I guess the worrying trends might have come back with him. It's a dangerous one. Damwon falling off a cliff was a big deal, as well as Kingzone slumping. But Gen.G finding themselves some form. I mean, they did lose a game to Jin Air, but otherwise they've been continuing to go from strength to strength. And yeah, it's all just a lot of turmoil as far as the top 7 places in the LCK are concerned. And I don't envy you for having to make those predictions for the pre-show as we did, because even I was feeling a little bit perturbed, Papa, because how are you supposed to make an intelligent choice when everything is so incredibly close and all of the results have been so different based on who's playing?
I heard off air, you know, you were being very clear about your kind of like miffed that you had to make predictions just because it's up there, and I agree with you in specifically who's going to be the 3 teams to represent, as Malrang is spotted on a ward here on this invade. This is potentially something that could be addressed. TP coming deep from Camille, could walk back and try to back up Elise. Information available here. I agree with you in that. I think strength of schedule at least lets us look at regular season and isolate it. But when it comes to the 3 teams going from Korea, I got SKT and 2 other teams. Kind of all I'm willing to say right now.
Me too. Me too. And I have a feeling that, you know, Gen.G, they've got... The reason I put Gen.G as number 2 is because they're against Damwon and the Afrika Freaks and Griffin, all teams that they've historically been pretty good at beating, even this season, having 1-0 records against all of them. So they're my sort of dark horse choice as far as the schedule is concerned. Griffin coming in 3rd because, of course, they're against some of the lower teams. As Lindarang looking for a solo kill. Good hook shot there from Rascal, but Cuzz is going to come in and save the day. So Rascal doesn't get solo killed. But if you're just talking about the fact that Rascal is not getting solo killed, that is still bad news for Kingzone.
But if we are talking about Cuzz not getting killed by Olaf, who was upper level and being able to farm around the Viking, you are actually happy to see that. The Elise needs to avoid where possible. You notice the farm lead here is insanely big already.
Oh, yeah.
From Olaf power clearing. Elise could not afford to go down a second time. More than she survives. Rascal not interrupted on the hook shot. It's the reason that he was able to drop some damage, and then Lindarang a little bit dodgy on his calculations with his flashball.
Yeah, not quite able to get that work done, but it does mean flash advantage now for Rascal, so maybe it's not all bad news here for Kingzone, meaning the follow-up gank opportunity is certainly going to be a big one. Cuzz had used the... Wait, he just used the flash. Why is his flash on cooldown?
I don't know. I hope we get a replay. Jonah Strong, if you're out there,
please,
lead observer.
Let us know.
Please explain.
That's, yeah.
It was in solidarity with Lindarang. Wow, yay!
He didn't need to do that. He was already losing, Papa Smithy.
What's the weirdest thing you've done in solidarity with a friend that you can discuss on broadcast? Maybe we'll have to hold the point for a moment.
I mean, I had the agreement to all flash out of the fountain at the beginning of the games. That's what we used to do. That was a fun one.
I hoped you'd had a real-life anecdote rather than a game anecdote here. But
really?
I'll work with that. No, like hunger protests or things like that.
I mean, I just can't think of too many of them that are appropriate for broadcast. A lot of them are drinking related.
You're up to. So like 2 cups of coffee instead of 1?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Drink coffee responsibly, chat.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's all about my caffeine problem that I'm working on. I'm solving the issue with more coffee.
I think you're addicted to being addicted.
I do have my vices, Papa Smithy, I do.
Seriously, you have so many vices. It's impressive.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm a very happy man, so something seems to be working. He says, currently sipping his coffee on broadcast.
You are, in fact, doing that. I'm being an enabler, aren't I?
Yeah, you are.
Oh, dear.
You didn't buy me the coffee, though, so...
That's true.
I mean, not today. You have certainly before in the past, so maybe you are an enabler.
I'm not trying to impress you like your other color who's vying for attention.
Hey, you know, he didn't even take me to the movies, so it doesn't even... I don't think it's valid. Both of us sort of cancelling on each other. He's winning, though. He's cancelled twice, and I've only cancelled once.
Winning, yeah, that's one way to look at it. Didn't realize it's battle of being jerks. Here's Camp Counselor Olaf. That's what I call this chroma.
He does certainly look like that. He's the Boy Scout. As TusiN and Deft get
Oh,
themselves
they're
into
ahead of him
position. Yeah, Cuzz going to move on over. Level 6 available for Malrang, which is very important as he pops that Ragnarok as we talk about it. Able to get out of there, but it means that ultimate now going to be on cooldown.
Kingzone have done a lot of extra vision and scouting here to respect the Olaf, and I really do appreciate that from them as Rascal takes the worst end of the trade.
Yeah, but he's going to hit that minion in the middle of the trade and get the last hit,
And
which
he's going,
I think was the most
going
important.
CS for CS in a lane that he outscales, so...
And also, he forced Lindarang to build 3 Doran's items. This guy is playing for lane like you would not believe at this stage. And yes, Rascal does have a couple of swords himself, but Lindarang is going to be behind the 8 ball when it comes to finishing off those completed items that Aatrox does rely on quite a lot.
But he also wants to get the pain in now, because in the 1v1 gets outscaled. In the team fight, you would argue he still kind of supplants his lead. Aatrox at a very high power level this patch, which caught some people off guard with the removal of the revive.
Yep, just the rest of it was all so incredibly strong.
Speaking of strong, this would be a very strong invasion trio. Rascal early in leaving the turret. Does he have hookshot up? You would assume so.
Yep, Grace going to try and shift some sands over, but he's going to ult first, and that means Grace has his opportunity. He's trying to find hookshot positioning, but he can't get there, and second kill for Jin Air. Goes over to the Olaf, and Malrang. We know that this guy can snowball an early game. He has certainly managed to do it this game.
And this is honestly one I'd love to see slowed down, because you have to hold on to the Hextech ultimatum till you see the threat of the ultimate there, the Emperor's Divide from Azir. If you go first, you die, and that's what happened in that interaction. So would love to see if there was any visual cancellations of autos or stop move commands in order to bait out. The ultimatum comes in, Rascal goes out, and Kingzone have to counter-rotate, otherwise this turret is going to be a gold pinata for Jin Air.
Well, Naehyun's going to deliver a package to it. That's going to deal with the minions. He's going to take a bit of damage off the end, but last couple of plates still inside this turret at close to 11 minutes into this game. But so far, Jin Air having a fantastic early game and looking to continue that aggression.
From minute 1, it has been Jin Air doing things and Kingzone doing their best to react. And we've loved their wards. We loved how Cuzz didn't get counter-jungled with smart vision spotting Olaf's earlier invade, but something's got to give. They're being ripped apart at the seams, and it all comes through Malrang, who's going LPL style, baby. I see a warrior in Chan.
Baby. And he's got
CDR
cooldown boots. What the
it's
heck
to flash
is
after
this?
that Elise more often, baby.
Yep. Well, looks like that Kindle Gem probably heading towards a Black Cleaver as well, if Malrang's remaining build says anything about it. Great piercing arrow there from Root just to clear out the rest of those minions here on the bottom side. Have fallen down a little bit bottom side of the map, but Jin Air Greenwings still rest of the map gone great.
Deep TP from Nova. It's actually on a what? Oh, that's one of those brush. The banana brush is trolling there.
Oh, no.
Thank you for the vision toggle confirming that is in fact a troll brush. Please report. Right, yes. But the thing to talk about here is, remember our draft expectations was that Kingzone needs to hit their item spikes and skirmish rather than just in 5v5 we trust. We, if anything, would give Jin Air a little bit more of a front-to-back composition that could team fight easier. And yes, you could out-execute, but given that Kingzone's falling behind, when will they actually feel relatively strong enough to battle like they need to, Atlas, as that's a adventure.
Yeah.
And another TP.
And the Rift Scuttler swimming through the ground is something that doesn't feel thematically correct, but has otherwise worked. And I want to talk... Oh, okay, Lindarang looking for the solo, but the shield's going to come in there from Rascal, gets a bit of damage back, and he's going to be able to eat through his Corrupting Potion. Now has a Sheen, so damage potential pretty high, actually, for Rascal. If he can get that second proc of the E, but he's not going to go for anything aggressive. Wants that grasp to come back to give himself some extra health. But this has been a bit of a disaster for Rascal topside. And you can see it's represented in that CS. 26 in the lead for the Aatrox.
Cuzz walking up and trying to threaten something here to get an advantage somewhere.
Comes down, able to get the Q in as well, but we'll take a turret shot for it as Cuzz is going to have to get out of there. Naehyun was coming down, but no joy as Malrang's dirty farming. And Rascal's just not having a very fun time.
This Camp Counselor is about to put him in purgatory for a while on the top side. So the timeout room is being enacted.
Yep, Rascal trying to make his great escape. Does use the flash to get out of the way. The Undertone will be able to keep himself alive, but that is going to sacrifice his top outer turret, and all of the plates were eaten by Lindarang. Now on the bottom side, we're looking for it, but TusiN unable to get there. Cuzz also going to be snared up. That Chains of Corruption was such high value. Cuzz gonna go golden, has the flash, will be a fat one to get out of there, but the teleport from Lindarang and another kill delivered. This Aatrox is gigantic.
And this
right
Jin
now.
Air is on form. That first victory to get into 3 game wins all season clearly has let this team return to believing in themselves. They're secure, they're on point. Kingzone find themselves 3,000 gold down at 13 minutes against Jin Air Greenwings, our 0-15 squad.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting because these compositions, we're looking at it, we're seeing a Corki, we're thinking scaling, we're seeing Xayah, we're thinking scaling, but you illustrated earlier on, guys, this isn't the kind of Corki Xayah composition that's going to scale well. There is basically 0 frontline unless you can kill them within the CC bar duration provided by a Rakan and something like a Camille or an Elise, right? So this game is going to be really difficult for Kingzone to navigate if they're against a Jin Air that's on form.
Watch the Chains of Corruption time here. It stops mid-grand entrance, the Rakan, and then the whole dive is scuffed. The first time was with no minion wave, the second time perfect timing, but all arrested by Root's timing. And then Cuzz thinks he can go gold and get a flash in. Unfortunately, too far away from a fat wall, can't get the flash in afterwards. Holds that cooldown, but not his life.
Okay, so we need to look at this from a Jin Air perspective. What have Jin Air been okay at navigating historically with Malrang in the jungle? It is the early game. They have managed to lose games from positions like this more times than they've won.
Oh, yeah.
So we do need to temper our expectations just a little bit. But Kingzone, the slump is continuing, and it's really worrying watching this game.
And I can describe to you what a lost game for Jin Air looks like.
Yeah.
They start to slow down because Olaf comps struggle to get inner turrets and then especially inhibitor turrets because he doesn't really provide anything in the siege as the game goes on. They lose map control. They don't actually have teamfight initiation, so they won't be able to force in the 1-3-1. And then someone face checks, Infinity Edge carries, dies, Baron comes in, the game ends. That could happen. But with this early lead and with Malrang the strongest person on the Rift, it's about what Jin Air want. And right now, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet on the outer objectives.
Yep, TusiN has to battle dance to get himself out of the way here as Shelly's eye is staying there for a very long time and she's ripping through this turret. Naehyun taking some Sand Soldier damage from Grace there. As you can see, Naehyun's lane has been relatively untouched, bottom side as well. I mean, Deft as far as laning phase is still laning very, very well as you would expect. It's just elsewhere on the map that everything's going absolutely wrong.
And if they can continue to spot Kingzone at every moment and take objectives through the sort of smart play they've shown in the first 14 minutes, with where we see this game going and the safety of their 5v5, Kingzone show up at the wrong time. Teamfights can definitely be won by Jin Air. The only thing they don't have is the proverbial Malphite, the true initiator. That means that a team that's done only 3 best-of-1 games of winning might find it hard to actually put a mortal blow into Kingzone Dragonets.
Yeah. Sort of one of the things I'm noticing here is that Jin Air's reliance on vision is going to be very, very high. Yep. Kingzone as well. I think that a lot of this is going to be decided on how many blue and red dots are around this mini-map. So if you want to have an idea for who's going to be in control, just look for that, as Kingzone are going to clear out a few of them right now.
And you see how Kingzone has to play because they have to put down spotting vision, make sure Olaf's not there. And yes, they have very good single target burst damage to kill one person. But when this camp counselor Olaf rolls through, they actually have to respect him. He is the strongest person on the Rift at almost Black Cleaver Warrior. And just with how much early damage an Olaf does. So because of that, if he's there, they have to be oh so careful.
I'm imagining Olaf as Edward Norton from Moonrise Kingdom right now, and it makes me extremely happy. If you haven't seen that movie, guys, it's Wes Anderson. It's absolutely beautiful. And Edward Norton is adorable.
But isn't it cool how you can have the pink chroma for Olaf, which feels like the guy who does the chug-chug at all points and doesn't really catch him much about
now this guy's
authority.
like a responsible person that takes care of the kids.
Or maybe he started as the pink Olaf, and then he grew to be the camp counselor. This is the reform
And now
stage.
he knows. Now he knows how these troubled youth are feeling, so he can be,
yes,
you know...
because he was one of them.
Amazing.
Wow, the chromas actually tell a story.
Such
Good job,
a
Riot
beautiful
Games.
storyline.
Okay.
I like it a lot. Well, this tower, if you liked that, you should probably just move on, because it's dead. Grace is going to set up a sun turret, so I guess you can take that as a surrogate mid-outer turret, but it's not going to work in favor of Kingzone. And that is a huge one. We talked about how vision control and map control is so important. Mid-outer turret, probably the most important one to get.
And isn't it lovely seeing Jin Air walk up, sweep ward down a control ward and a spotting ward over the wall, guarantee the Drake is theirs. They're dotting their I's and crossing their T's like there wasn't a consecutive loss streak of 15. This feels like Jin Air playing in a tournament with a fresh start, you know? Like this feels like they went overseas like I did with the LEC and just got to represent themselves and not the baggage of losing 15 times in a row. So to this point, I've been really impressed with Jin Air Green.
Yep. They're playing very, very well. Of course, the way that they played against Genji in that game #1 was also good. We'll see whether they can keep it up throughout this series. Of course, a best of 3 here, Papa Smithy, in case you forgot. You're back in a region where we do play a few extra games.
Wait, it's not just one game?
Yeah, sorry. This is not for all the marbles.
Oh, but I had a meeting. I'll see what I can do.
Sorry, mate. This is what I should have reminded you of earlier on.
You know, I got the spoiler with the 3 kills in 19 minutes, which...
It's a 3-0? That's a best of 5, Papa Smithy. That's different.
Here's the camp counselor.
Coming in, getting the vision down. Have you seen Moonrise Kingdom, Papa?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you have to.
I think I saw the trailer.
Have you seen the Grand Budapest Hotel?
Yes, I have seen.
So
I've
same
seen Wes
director.
Anderson.
Yeah.
Grand Budapest Hotel was really good.
Fantastic.
I've been to Budapest before. Beautiful city. That's where my brother was married. Married to a Hungarian lady, so went over to Budapest, I think 5 years ago now. Beautiful city.
I'd like to go. I've never actually been. I hear it has a nice hotel.
A grand one.
Yeah.
In Budapest.
In Budapest, yeah. That's the iconic part. Malrang moving on over. Grace up here as well. Oh man, it is slowing down, so that is good news for Kingzone. That is exactly what they want to do. The lead just over 3,000 gold. Now Cuzz is just waiting to try and punish a Lindarang that is pretty keen on not getting punished. He knows they have control of the bottom side of the map.
Kingzone have to play to what they know, which, as you can tell from their control ward line, is a little bit here, a little bit there, but definitely else owned by Jin Air is kind of the map state summary right now, and that means that outer bot lane turrets are too much to hold, and I guess you could be happy that it's 3 outer turrets at 20 minutes rather than 14 or 13, which was possible with the pace at which this game was played. This is where the game gets harder, just because outer turrets, really easy objectives to take because there's so much map to traverse to get to them that if you have a lead, you always have to be respectful. Inner turrets, harder. Inhibitor turrets, really hard. So Jin Air kind of have to find a way to make this about the Baron. They've got the turrets to do it, but invading red side jungle is the very obvious bullet point that Jin Air need to address now.
Yeah, and also, Cuzz is on Elise, a champion that's pretty good at stealing away Barons as well. So you don't want to go for any 50-50s if you are Malrang. Jin Air will see whether they can be clean. Of course, they do have the Emperor's Divide. They do have a lot of tools as far as turn off Baron and deterring Kingzone from being able to challenge them at the Baron, but I think, like you say, it might be thinking a little bit too far ahead. And speaking of thinking a little bit too far ahead, Papa, when do we start talking about the fact that we're on track for a perfect game for Jin Air Greenwings?
I mean, at 21 minutes, even let's say Jin Air was like, I don't think we're going to get a match victory this year. Even a perfect 20 minutes is pretty good. You know, that's something. It doesn't get you points. It doesn't stave off relegation, but they're already stuck in that particular issue. It's already something that you feel proud of.
Damn right.
It's not something they're thinking about now, because as pro players, it's always funny when you have hosts and casters talk about like milestones, and the player's like, no, I just wanted to win the video game I was in.
I didn't actually notice what was happening.
I didn't know it was my 1200th assist today, actually. I was thinking about winning. But for us on the outside, this is a really nice kind of spot here. Worth mentioning, though, that Kingzone's starting to finish those 4 items, and you make the wrong push and shove. You go forward too aggressively, thinking it's still 10 minutes and Olaf is the biggest champion on the Rift. That starts to change, you know, with natural scaling as time goes on. So there's still plenty of spots to make a mistake on execution, to trip up on your shoelaces as Jin Air Greenwings.
Yeah, and also you can see they're actually building for that as well, as we are going to have Nova into the Brambleback pit, which is not where he wants to be. No flash, is going to be able to use it to get himself out of the way there, as you can see, but that is going to be the result here for Kingzone. A flashless Catfish, certainly good news, meaning that he can't flash to save anyone, but not able to get a kill just yet. That perfect game is still alive.
And it's the first time this game that Kingzone have gotten something and it didn't cost anything. And that's relevant. You know, they didn't get the kill, they didn't avert a perfect game, but they do get a flash and force something, and suddenly you've got to be more particular with your vision battles around the Baron. The Baron defense can continue, and you already alluded to the fact that as the game goes on, Xayah and Corki from the red side over the wall can do a lot of relevant damage. Corki not quite there yet with the missiles. Xayah, again, not quite there, but with the right crit, would definitely do some damage over the wall. But the Baron focus is not there, and Jin Air, for all the things they did get, there is something they've missed out on doing. They haven't been stacking crazily. It's only 2 Drakes at 23 minutes, so the backup win condition post 35 is going to be a little bit in.
Yeah, and we've got Sandstorm Drakes coming in here as well, so the Mountain Drake coming in next. Going to be great if Jin Air can keep up this level of control and then move over to the Baron, because they will have so much Baron damage. Azir and Varus, 2 of our premier Baron takers. Just in general, Lindarang's no slouch either with Malrang there for the secure. So this will be an opportunity for Jin Air to upgrade their ability to take Baron. If they're waiting another 5 minutes without doing so much, that is giving Kingzone that time to get to those 3-item spikes.
And actually, if you look at items, you see Blade Hurricane, which is not non-standard, but it's
I was going to talk about this before I was interrupted by some action on the roof.
This item is really good when the enemy comes to you, but Jin Air lack initiation and are far enough ahead where they've got easy objectives that how many times will Varus be able to hoover damage onto multiple members when they don't have the initiation to force Kingzone to fight? Kind of have to be on Baron and turning off Baron to do that. So there's a lot of scenarios where this effective itemization might not work. Rascal's going to be able to trip out. Meanwhile, Deft, it's very much a tried and true 2-item build for this side.
Yeah. Pretty comfortable there, as he's going to be very late to getting towards this inner turret. That's going to fall down. Olaf's going to be the one that guarantees it. I love this from Jin Air, though. They move 4 people towards the bottom side. They guarantee an objective. And Naehyun just wasting time topside, hoovering down minion waves, only barely getting to that turret in time as the blockage there from Grace to make sure that Kingzone can't rotate. This is really clean play, apart from if that happens. Rascal makes his way in, and that's 2 kills already. 1 to the Camille, 1 to the Xayah. No more perfect gaming. Grace has to use the Emperor's Divide defensively now. Towards the north, they're unable to save Nova because the Azir is in the mid lane, and Kingzone will move to the Baron. And yeah, we're on track for a perfect game now. Jin Air on track for another loss.
That is the epitome. Put it in the dictionary of cast to curse. As you're talking about how perfect the play is, literally multiple people trip over 3 deaths and a Baron come in, and suddenly that's the moment that could change the game, Atlas.
I really need you to load up your VOD reviews later on and
watch
tell
this.
us the exact
It's
moment.
beautiful until the Blade Caller from Deft. He swings around, gets the stun, 1 member's deleted, great deep teleport, and this is what a throw looks like, Atlas, all from the Blade Caller from Deft.
Yeah, and as soon as that Emperor's Divide gets used, it means that the rest of the 3 unable to get anything done. Free Baron, and goodbye advantage. And Kingzone are now looking to make a gigantic Baron power play because the standing gold is just huge on this map.
And everything matters because the only reason Tahm Kench dies is because his 2 allies have already died and he didn't have the flash from before.
Yeah.
He's condemned to death. His positioning was fine unless 2 people randomly die. Speaking of death, his
Naehyun's
levels are getting up there. It's 16.
Good God, he spent so much time in a side lane that he's 5 levels over Nova.
Yeah.
That's insane. In fact, he's 6 levels over his own support.
That's a
TusiN
big
has
number,
been outside of a lane for quite some time, as it turns out, as Rascal getting to the point where he's very comfortable. Now looking for potentially the Sterix Gauge coming in as his next item, but the Trinity Force is done, the Tiamat is done, and those big ones are really starting to hurt. Rapid Fire Cannon was the 2nd item of choice here for Naehyun as he packages to get himself out of the way. But that Infinity Edge is very close, Bubba Smithy.
The big ones from the Rockets are clear. Also, if you want to see some big ones, move your gaze to the top right. We're going to have a nice amount of gold being injected in terms of Baron buff power plays because there's a lot of standing gold to be gotten here.
Yeah.
Almost everything that happened until Tahm Kench had to flash defensively was entirely decided by Jin Air Greenwings. The Baron is one way to make you face check crazy damage carries, and we're what? 1,500 gold, maybe less, away from Naehyun being 3-item Corki to join 3-item Xayah.
Yep, 3 items I already there. Was just about to mention that one as, speaking of things worth mentioning, 40 seconds. That Mountain Drake will be available. And we were talking just moments ago about that being so good for Jin Air to snowball towards the Baron. Well, the Baron's already dead, and Mountain Drake should be going over to King Zone if they want it, because you can see they have all of the control. And we already mentioned how incredibly important it is to have vision control as this King Zone squad. And if Jin Air are going to face check, one person's instantly going to die. That's just how it's going to work. As Naehyun, he's got Valkyrie. That's one hell of an ability as the flash forward. Root really wants to kill him, and they will. You're willing to invest that flash. Chains of Corruption are going to secure it. Naehyun didn't even have time to use his own F button.
And Root's a motivated buyer right now.
Oh,
This
yeah.
was an auction. He's getting in there and jacking the price up early because he was the one that stuffed up and walked up too far. We talk about that side lane
Yeah,
outscale.
looking for the
Lindarang.
1v1. He's trying to get himself at exactly the right points as Lindarang has to use the solo stopwatch. Umbral Dash going to be utilized. The hook shots there. Rascal stays on the wall. The flash to follow. The second E's easy. The solo kill for the outscaling Camille has finally happened. And King Zone move over to that aforementioned Mountain Drake. The death of Naehyun, just something that was an afterthought.
And that's what happens in the small skirmishes. The 1v1, the clearest place for King Zone to attack. The inevitability of the Camille outscaling the Aatrox in the 1v1. That comes true. Forcing it to be about the burst damage. That comes true. And the war stories, the PTSD, it's all coming together, Atlas. Unfortunately, we've seen this one so many times before. The moments of this game will be clear. We look at the replay here and you see a super motivated Root trying to spare blushes. That ult went right. It would have been a tilter. In this case, it gets them something. But Rascal got interrupted. That's how the play started.
Ahaha. Didn't actually get the stun from the hook shot, but apparently the Hextech ultimatum just a little bit better than the old World Ender.
Oh, it's very straightforward to run down at the end. Because it's not even about the ult as much. It's about the true damage calculations there. No way for Aatrox to out-sustain that sort of damage. Enjoy this, he says. Nova looking for the coverage here, spotted on a ward.
And also, you've got Rascal able to get these solo kills, and he hasn't even built for lane. The execution is calling, not quite there. So, it's a bit of a worry that already we're at this particular stage in the Camille versus Aatrox matchup, and if this game is going to be about split push, it's going to be about King Zone.
I think it's quite intelligent not to build for lane in terms of execution is calling, but it is a split push build, right? Sterix would be the choice if you're going to team fight. This is the build that lets you sustain off a wave, Trinity Force proc down a turret and back away. So it's still a for lane build, but I understand what you're saying.
It's for a lane that you don't necessarily need to interact with your opponent as much.
And Camille at level 16, you know, if you have executions calling, maybe you have a window at like level 8, 9, 10, 11 to look for those solo kills. There's also the inevitability of don't build that, wait a little bit of time, and then from level 16, with just these items, you're fine. And now he's even got the Sterix to be an initiator as well.
And speaking of having things, Naehyun now has his third item spike. Theoretically fourth, actually, if you include. Okay, here goes TusiN. He's going to find 4 with the quickness. Nova should be going down with a Varus in his belly. That's going to condemn him to death as well. And Nova gets his flashback, instantly uses it, and he's still dead. The Emperor's Divide is down, and it's looking like King Zone have found their team fight, and maybe even the game, unless they want to take another Baron. There's only 18 seconds until that one comes up as well.
You call it a team fight, feels more like whack-a-mole for me. People die so fast, these carries that never should have had this gold. But one mistake leads to all of this, Atlas. It went exactly how we forecast. Sadly, we've seen this story before. We have to watch it once more.
Yep, and we had to talk about Jin Air and their possibilities to win, but now we need to talk about TusiN and his ability to engage. Good God. The Rakan looked beautiful in the moments where it worked, and King Zone, they were losing by a lot until they won the game.
That is, in fact, the correct summation of game number 1 of Jin Air Greenwings versus King Zone Dragon X. An auspicious day where King Zone really had to show their straps on the Rift. It's been so long since we've seen them win an entire match. They are able to pull off the victory. Jin Air did almost everything right till 22 minutes into the game, and not 10 minutes later, they go down. Victory picked up for King Zone, a needed one, and they'll be looking to amp up their early game to not make it such a come-from-behind victory against our marooned 10th place team.
Yeah, it's so incredibly sad, but I think it's really important to illustrate how well they played beforehand is the deal with it glasses there on the alpacas. Some members of the Australian Embassy in the crowd today.
Thank you for repping over there. Coming through, we gave them a tour of Lol Park before. 2 Australian casters linking up with the Australian Embassy. A delight. Thank you very much for coming to join us here at Sports. I like it. We are doing sports.
I like it a lot.
That was some serious sports right there.
Well, that was some serious sports that had certainly an upset factor towards the middle there. Some unfortunate stuff. Support you 3000, you are the best alpaca, was what that was saying earlier on when we saw the deal with the glasses on the alpaca. And we'll see whether we can get a little bit more out of Deft in game number 2. As we're checking out some highlights, this was surprise TusiN getting the 4-person lockup. If there is ever a better quickness, you let me know what it is. And that one looked beautiful.
And the quickness is different. You know, when he was racking up the MVPs, it was instant, right? But the cool thing there is he pre-pops it, grand entrance, then flashes into the back line. He looked like a Shen when you taunt one person and then flash 45 degrees.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened there with the quickness. TusiN finds new ways to reinvent the possibilities of Rakan through all the changes.
Oh god, the Malrang damage is the really disappointing part and is just feeling like a consistent issue here for this team. Because he wants to be brawling as this champion, he wants to be getting around the map, and you best believe that that 2.8k was done in the first 10 minutes.
And it was on Cuzz and the team putting down all those extra wards to subvert where Malrang was, and it wouldn't have mattered. They could have still won the game.
Yeah.
They didn't lose the game because Malrang didn't do enough damage. They lost the game because of their positioning mistake that really snowballed this game to King's Zone.
Certainly did. The few kills and then a Baron, and then it was all over for Jin Air, but they looked so powerful, and they might be able to do it in game number 2. Of course, Pup is back from the LEC, and now we get to experience King's Zone versus Jin Air one more time. And Jin Air getting a do-over after what was such a great 21 minutes is certainly a big deal. We'll see you guys after the break.
아, 일단 올라프 그냥 가위 빠졌어. 올라프 가위가 없어. 앞에 노플이고. 아지르도 노플. 올라프 풀을 모르겠다. 그냥 나 W 가 넣으면 볼게 그냥. 앞에서 보자 그러면. 천천히 그냥. 너 얘부터. 라인 마무리하고 얘부터. 죽여. 앞에 노플. 오케이. 처음에 인베 올 수 있었는데 너무 상하고. 가네.